Support for Consider This is provided by the University of Nebraska at Omaha College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Do you have a message for America before your visit, a parting message?
I'm filled with hope to meet you all. I pray for you all, for all of the people of the United States. And I ask you, please, to pray for me. Thank you.
Santo Padre, le agradezco por su tiempo.
A final message just weeks prior to his historic trip. Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the Pope's visit to the United States. Joining us to talk more about it are Father Ryan Lewis, pastor of St. Thomas More Parish in Omaha, as well as chaplain at Gross Catholic High School, and Curtis Hutt, an assistant professor of religious studies right here at UNO. Thank you both very much for being here and welcome to the program.
Great to be here, Kathy. Thank you.
Father Lewis, I want to start with you. Could you briefly sum up the ABC special that folks watched on September 4th?
Yeah, absolutely. It was an encounter with the Holy Father prior to him coming here, and he specifically wanted to meet with some folks from places in the United States that he wouldn't be able to visit personally. And some of the highlighted images that we saw were the border, so immigration was highlighted from a small town in Texas on the border, and Los Angeles, California, and was it Chicago, Illinois, I think was the third, and beautiful mixture of ages and really just wanting to talk to the Pope, he videoing with them, but what you heard there is it was about prayer, that this was going to be a pastoral visit, that he wanted to pray for the people of the United States, and he wanted us Americans to pray for him.
Wow. Dr. Hutt, to get a good idea of who the Pope is, let's go back to the humble beginnings, right, in Argentina. Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, this is the first American Pope, the first Pope from the Americas, and like almost all of us, we're descendants of immigrants, and he was an immigrant. He gets this part of it. I think his work with the poor in Buenos Aires in Argentina, it really stands out. I think that also his work on interfaith relations. I'm a Judaic Studies professor, and I understand how he reached out to the Jewish community in Argentina.
The son of Italian immigrants. His parents immigrated to Argentina from Italy, so he himself was an immigrant, very, very close to folks who were immigrants, and of course that was one of the central themes of his pastoral visit, was that we are a nation of immigrants here in America. For him, though, very humble upbringing, oldest of 4 children, studied in Catholic schools, very normal childhood, and his decision to enter the Jesuits no doubt pleased his parents, and but he did all of his studies in Argentina prior to ordination to priesthood.
Okay, and all of this, of course, leads up to March 13th, 2013. What's important for us to note about that day? So
as the doctor said, first Pope from America elected. Cardinal Bergoglio was very, very well respected among his fellow cardinals. He had done well in the previous papal election that elected Benedict XVI. He was a man of the people. He was known to be someone who was a very effective administrator in his own Archdiocese of Buenos Aires, one with the poor, had a heart for immigrants, and was not a Roman insider, hadn't spent any time stationed in Rome, in fact would go to Rome as little as he possibly could because he wanted to be close to his people in Buenos Aires. And they just saw a set of gifts in him that made him very, very appealing to them. And we saw a very short conclave. I think he was elected on the 4th ballot on the 2nd day. And that shows me that the cardinals very quickly looked around the room, and as they assessed the situation, through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, he pretty quickly rose to the front, such that it was a fast election, and the Church got her first American Pope and first non-European Pope in, my goodness, a long time.
Yeah, Dr. Hutt, he's been referenced because of his views and so forth as a compassionate conservative, right? Thoughts on perceptions and messaging and so forth with the Pope?
I'm a little concerned about that title because oftentimes it's kind of a code word for certain Republicans that aren't necessarily, let's say, they're not as friendly towards migrants or maybe others. And I think his agenda in the first few years has been very much counter to the agendas of many Republicans in the United States. He's been perceived to be a very strong ally of Obama on a number of issues like climate change or on immigration. I think that compassionate conservative might not be as good as just progressive. Even within the church, he started to do work on church governance issues, which in a way leave the decision-making process up not to just him, but he does it collegiality in these decisions, working with the other bishops. That's very, very important. Just to give another example, which it does touch many people in America and academics, under Pope Benedict, work on sexual ethics in Catholic universities in the United States and elsewhere, there were faculty members, even at Creighton and other places, that were censured because of their thinking about sexual ethics. This Pope assembles a conclave on sexual teachings in Rome amongst the bishops to discuss difficult issues. So he's kind of working from the ground up with the other bishops in the Vatican. He's making decisions with them. He's not an autocrat in any way, shape, or form, but he is taking on really difficult issues. And I think that makes him a progressive as opposed to a compassionate conservative.
Father Lewis?
I'd call him a reformer for sure, and there's areas in the church that need reform. Conservative is fair in the sense that he hasn't changed any church doctrine. Doctrine doesn't change, but certainly how we present it. I would certainly call him a reformer in terms of the Roman Curia, the Vatican bureaucracy, which I think all sides would say needs reform, in order for the church to better be church to the people. Less bureaucracy, he's more the ground roots, and he's very much someone who wants the church to be there for her followers, especially those, his favorite word is on the peripheries, or the margins of society, the poor, the immigrant, the undereducated, the incarcerated, all those folks who Jesus would reach out to. He says we as church better be authentic in being who we are by being there especially for those most in need, and models it in his own life. Doesn't just tell us to do it, he did it.
Mm-hmm.
If I could give a very concrete example of this. The Pope, just before he came, in consultation with the other bishops, made it easier for Roman Catholics to get annulments for their marriages. Made it easier for remarriage within the Roman Catholic Church. Now, that may not be a doctrinal change, but he certainly made it possible for real,
for God's mercy to be more...
God's mercy to be shown in this case, but it goes, I think, even further than that. I think that by this willingness to move on an issue that's so important to so many people, that he's going to make an impact in the Roman Catholic Church, in the lives of Roman Catholics who are divorced, right, who don't live with their partners. And in some ways, it really reminds me of Vatican II. Cardinal Dolan mentioned that he thought it took 50 years for these great church councils to have their effect, and said that now it really is having its effect with Pope Francis. And I actually think that just this one single decision actually could make him as influential of a pope as John the 23rd. Just this one decision.
Well, and early on we saw too, especially in 2013, Person of the Year, Father Lewis. I mean, I guess I would like your take on that, knowing he comes in and he is kind of the popular Pope.
Immediate popularity.
Yeah.
Really, people took to him immediately because of who he was. I think because of his genuine authenticity as a convicted disciple of Jesus Christ. There were all the things that people noticed and that got attention. Not living in the papal apartments, driving a simple car, encouraging priests and bishops to live simple lives, but modeling it himself. And Catholics and non-Catholics have been taken with Francis really from the beginning, and people jumped on board quickly. Maybe even before he had a chance to really define himself and what his papacy was going to look like. But boy, the first encyclical, The Joy of the Gospel, was very, very well received, and he's just been a blessing to the church and to the world, and folks have really listened to him with new hearts. Maybe folks who had tuned out popes in the past are now listening and wanting to hear what this man has to say. I think it's his unique background.
And of course, the first people to receive him, Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, when he lands. And we do have some images that we want to put up while we're talking with you, Father Lewis, about what were you feeling that day? What were your thoughts as he was landing?
Just complete excitement, and I was with the school children, so they certainly helped with that excitement. I thought to myself, this man's 78 years of age. And he is coming to the United States for the first time, not just as Pope, but the first time ever. And I thought how extraordinary this is that a 78-year-old man has never been to our country, and maybe a little bit of a humble lesson for us. Maybe America isn't the center of the universe, as we so often think of ourselves as. But his genuine joy to be there. I thought the president and his family and the vice president and his family coming out to the airport, which is a break of typical protocol. Normally, the president would receive a foreign head of state at the White House. I thought that was a beautiful gesture on the part of the president, and also spoke to the fact that, as Doctor said earlier, that the current administration has found some areas that the Pope has talked about where they see commonalities. He's very strong on immigration reform. He's very strong on access to health care, especially for the poor. These are areas where certainly the administration sees common ground. And in fact, you can hear the president sometimes quoting the Pope on certain issues, and that they don't agree on everything, of course.
But if you think about the issue of Cuba, you know. He was just in Cuba, and you hear Raul Castro reconsidering his atheism and rejoining the church. I understand that he was a key player behind the scenes in getting the United States to reestablish relations with Cuba. This is not popular with everyone in the United States, certainly, but he did have Obama's back and was part of this.
All of that said, Dr. Hutt, some would say that it took him too long to get here. Do you have thoughts?
I think Father Lewis just answered that question. We're not the center of the earth. You know, we're not. And the people that he's concerned about the most, he obviously is concerned about all people in the United States, whether they're in Argentina or whether they're in poorer countries around the world. But there's this preferential option for the poor that was discussed years ago, and now a poor church for the poor. Some of his statements are so strong.
And papal travel is always going to be compared to the gold standard of papal travel, which was St. John Paul II and Benedict XVI. And I don't think Francis, both in their upper 70s when they were elected, they're not even going to attempt to travel as much as John Paul did. So this could very well be the one and only trip he makes to the United States.
Okay, so Dr. Hutt, in your opinion, three most significant things that the Pope said or did while he was here in the United States.
I'm going to go with two saids and one did.
Okay.
First, in his address to the Congress, when he mentioned Dorothy Day and Thomas Merton, a lot of jaws dropped around the United States and perhaps the world. If you think just the the person of Dorothy Day. Not only was she so actively engaged in improving the lives of people that were poor, she lived with the homeless in New York, but if you look at the number of Catholic worker houses in Texas that have been accused of aiding and abetting, migrants and asylum seekers, it's not just on the issue of poverty, right? It's also on the issue of migrants and how we should treat asylum seekers in the United States. Dorothy Day is a symbol of that. The Catholic worker is a symbol of that. And then finally, bringing Dorothy Day up, I heard some people saying, well, maybe this is a step towards her canonization. Dorothy Day had an abortion. Imagine someone that had an abortion. She was against abortion later in her life. That said, however, it strikes me that she is potentially a very controversial figure, not only in the Roman Catholic Church, but in the United States political scene as a whole. And I thought it was remarkable that he brought her up at that point in time. So that would be number one. Number two, I think, in the speech to the United Nations, when he talks about the right of the environment, and he spent a good deal of time on that, it strikes me in a world where climate change is denied by many Christians, whether they're Roman Catholic or whether they're Protestant, the Pope coming on the scene and giving his support for the right of the environment, I thought was expected, but it was very dramatic as well. And number three, I do want to go to his visit to the prison. There's something very touching when he reaches out to prisoners, when he reaches out to people that have been abused, and he says, we all need to be cleansed. We all need to be cleansed. He brings himself to them, and I don't know, I thought it was just very, very moving and a great example of the highest Christian ethics.
Yeah, which, Father Lewis, plays into that whole popularity piece, including Catholics, right? In your opinion, pre his visit, talk about the landscape in the Catholic Church, just big picture perspective, because we're going to kind of journey through and talk about where you think it is as a result of his visit. So let's go back to pre-visit.
Okay.
Landscape, your opinion.
I think the energy level was high even before his visit because of his papacy and what he's done. He has reinvigorated many Catholics. Doctor mentioned the annulments. Catholics who have felt in some way alienated from or on the peripheries of even the life of the church because of personal situations. This Pope is always offering divine mercy. He always wants to show people, he doesn't lower the bar. We're still called to holiness. We're called to live life of virtue. He doesn't want to lower the bar, but what he does want to do is say, when you fall short of the bar, our loving, merciful Lord is there to pick you up, to heal you, to forgive you, and that to get you back on the path that we're all called to. We're called to be saints, and he's just done that in a beautiful way. Some important things I thought that he did for healing. One was really several times reaching out to women religious in a special way who haven't in recent years felt maybe that they were as appreciated as they should be. And of course our Catholic Church in the United States of America, especially our school system, built on the backs of men religious as well, but for sure the women religious. So he very consciously reached out to them and said, thank you for all of your contributions, thank you for your support. These, and you said the prison, these are the gestures that people really love him for. Mm-hmm. And that built up the expectation for young men thinking about the priesthood, for men and women thinking about religious vocations. Here's a Jesuit who, because he was a Jesuit, never thought he would ever be a bishop, let alone a cardinal, let alone the Pope. And so there's an absolute absence of ambition in the man. And yet here he is, our Pope, and that humility, that wanting to be with the sheep, all that led up to the excitement of this trip, to see him.
And you being pastor of a parish here in Omaha, you got to see it kind of at the ground level. From the time he landed, you got to experience your congregation experiencing the Pope's visit here. Talk to us about what that was like.
And different ages. The older parishioners who literally were glued to their television sets the entire week, watching the wonderful and very thoughtful media coverage, I might say, of the Pope's visit. I want to thank the media for a very professional job, very thoughtful job. The school children. I took the seniors at Gross High School, and we, with other seniors from all the other Catholic high schools, watched it together on a big screen, and then we had a discussion after his address to Congress. So getting these coming of age Catholics really, and to hear what they had to say, and they were so excited. Then the families, the original excuse for this trip, or purpose for this trip, was the World Meeting for Families in Philadelphia. To see this Pope, who does seem progressive in some areas, had a very strong and robust defense of marriage and family life. At that World Meeting of Families, he said, as the family goes, so goes society. And he was a little bit, he said, isn't it interesting, when we defend marriage, when we defend family life, when we defend a strong sexual morality, the Catholic Church is attacked as being too harsh. He said, then when we protect the immigrant and we want to see immigration reform, we want to see migrants treated with dignity and respect, others attack the Church as being too harsh. And I thought he kind of made that point that, we sometimes are getting beat up on both sides, but where we need to be is where the gospel is, where Jesus would have us, and that's where he's got the smell of the sheep, as he says, and he calls on all of us who are ministers in the Church to likewise be with your people. So I was with my people. People said, you're not out on the East Coast this week. I said, no, I'm where Pope Francis would want me to be, with my people and enjoying this pastoral visit, again, thanks to the media and their very, very thoughtful coverage.
So, Father, he leaves, right? And I guess I'm wondering now, because that's perception, and people are pretty pumped up about all of that. What do the Catholic Church leaders need to do now, in his physical absence here, to continue to move forward? And do you think that that's going to be feasible?
I think we just need to harness that energy. I think the bishops of the United States of America got a huge shot in the arm. They've been fighting some pretty rough battles recently with religious liberty, with the definition of marriage, and they haven't been winning many of these battles in the culture. I think the Pope's visit, for one thing, helped them, gave them some strength. He encouraged them. He gives them a great personal example, so I think that'll be good. I've told my people, if you didn't see all of the Pope's talks, go online, read what the Pope had to say. Don't let just the media tell you what he said. Read his actual words. If you want to get to know Francis, read what he said. And again, the internet is such a blessing, all these various ways of social communication, where you can go and literally read every word that he spoke while he was in the United States. Tremendous blessing.
Okay. We have just a couple minutes left, Dr. Hutt. First of all, anything you'd like to add to that, but just mindful that we have 2 minutes. I'm curious as to what you think in terms of the Pope moving forward. So what's next for the Pope?
I think what's remarkable about this Pope is he tackles really difficult issues where there are, within the Church and outside of the Church, where people really are not in agreement, and he finds a way to negotiate a path forward. This is, I think, the case with the annulments, for example. Absolutely. Super difficult issues. Is he lowering the bar? Well, he's making it easier for people to get annulments. I really don't know where he's going, what he's going to do next. He's proved to be kind of unpredictable. I do think that you'll continue to see a very, very humble Pope. A very humble Pope who is not trying to draw attention to himself, a Pope who's not an autocrat, right? And who's strengthening the Church actually from within by giving voices to people inside of the Church who feel, maybe some of the, after Vatican II, there was such great enthusiasm in the Church, right? He brings that same type of energy to what he does, I think.
Definitely a dialogue that folks are going to be continuing for quite some time to come. I want to thank the two of you very, very much for being here, for sharing your time, your thoughts, your expertise. We do want to leave our viewers today with a very special clip. It's kind of the memorable moments of the Pope's visit to the U.S., courtesy of MSNBC. So we'll take a look at that. Thank you both.
Thanks for having us.
It is so nice to see you. Welcome.
God bless America.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.